The Detroit Lions went extremely heavy at cornerback in the NFL draft, picking up a few defensive linemen near the end and in undrafted free agency. And we all wonder, well, I wonder, and maybe some of you do as well, if the Detroit Lions have any other moves when it comes to adding additions to the team in what's left of free agency. Now, a lot of times what teams will do, it'll be a huge push in March, like that first week, week and a half, 2 weeks of free agency. Then things will settle down till after the draft. And then once those needs or those draft picks are selected, and then they go through undrafted free agency, then teams will start to pick up other players as well. I think we saw Jarvis Landry come off the board after the NFL draft, if I'm not mistaken. DJ Chark has now become a Los Angeles Charger. And they won't be the only two that we see go to teams after not signing with anyone in the 6 weeks between the start of free agency and the NFL draft. So this is a article from my guy, Brad Behrman. This time it's actually Brad Behrman. I'm not going to use the censor button today because sometimes I'll hit the censor button and then it'll activate my other sound effects, which ruined the whole video. So I'm not going to do that today. But here are 5 free agent pass rushers that the Detroit Lions could look at if they are in the market for a pass rusher. Now, this is from Brad Behrman. As I said earlier, I have not seen this list. I wanted to react in real time with you guys. So we're going to look at it together and I'll give you my thoughts. So number 1 is who is, no, they already passed it already. One thing about Sideline Report is, first of all, you got all these ads. Then you kind of don't know where the names are. Sometimes they're at the bottom here. Okay, so Majai Sanders, have no idea who this is. No clue at all. Let me see. He had 0 sacks in 7 games last year, and he was waived in April. Okay. If this is number 5, if this guy is number 5, I am terrified of what the rest of this list is going to look like. All right, so if that's number 5, who is number 4 going to be? Let's go to next and see. Emmanuel Ogbah. Now, this one isn't too bad. With he had 6.5 sacks over the last 2 seasons. He had 5.5 sacks last season. He might actually be the best one left on the market. When I looked at the free agent pass rushers a couple of weeks ago, he was actually at the top. So I don't know how old he is. It doesn't say in here. And then Carl Lawson at number 3 says Lawson is a popular post-draft edge rusher target for the Lions and other places. So let's get on the bandwagon here. Played 17 games for New York. We keep going back to 2022. But what did they do in 2023? Have no idea. It doesn't even list his 2023 stats. So right now I'm not impressed with any of these guys. Marcus Golden, who is still in the league. Let me see. Last season had 4 sacks in 16 games. Wow. Who's number 1? Yannick Ngakoue. Yannick Ngakoue. What did he do prior to last season? What did he do last season? Had 34 quarterback pressures. Good for a second. Sack numbers are inherently random, necessary. Okay, but where are the sack numbers at? And this is him training May the 2nd. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this real quick. I want to see Yannick Ngakoue. I guess he hurt his ankle. And that's him going around. Yeesh. Wow. I mean, you're talking about slim pickings. I don't know what his stats were for 2023. Let me see. Let me see if I can look him up real quick. Yannick. Man, that's tough. Ngakoue. That is tough. I don't know if we're even. And the reason I feel like I do about Yannick is the Detroit Lions had plenty of time to sign him last offseason. He was a guy that was sitting on the kind of the shelf for most of the year. And then he wound up signing with the Chicago Bears last year. Now, going in to last season, Okay, so going into last season, he was kind of high on my list because the pickings had got slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. And as they kind of got as slim as they did, Yannick kind of shot up the board and became, higher on the list. At this point, I wouldn't be mad at almost anything. Now, I know we got Makai Wingo. I know we got the two dudes in the UDFA, right? But let's be real. Makai we can put him in the same group as James Houston. So James Houston and him, 6th round pick, I consider them to be kind of in a similar kind of circumstance where, if you remember, James Houston didn't make the original 53-man roster. I think it's going to be difficult for Makai to do that as well, but can they both make the 53-man roster? Or could you see James Houston or one or the other making the 53-man roster and one going on the practice squad? Now, I will say this. I will say that either one of those guys could go on the practice squad and not last for 2 seconds. The Detroit Lions would have to protect them. And don't forget, you can only protect people, I want to say 3 or 4 times per season. And then after that, you either have to move them up to the 53-man roster or they are unprotected and another team can come snag them right off of the practice squad. So, okay, Yannick, undrafted, did not even realize that. We've talked about this guy plenty of time. Solo tackles, 4 sacks. What was his stats last year? We've looked at this guy quite a bit. We were looking at him a ton last year, heading into kind of like the start of the season and free agency. So played 13 games. And I want to say he signed with the Bears prior to the start of the season, coming off 4 sacks in 13 games. So that's 1 sack every 4 games is essentially what that is. 1 sack every 4 games compared to his lone year in Indianapolis. I don't know. Maybe just the Bears weren't a good fit because he got almost 10 sacks last year or 2 years ago and then 10 sacks the year before. So here's my concern with Yannick Ngakoue. Yannick Ngakoue kind of reminds me of like the Everson Griffin thing. And if you remember going into last season, and I wonder if this is one of the things that kept him from signing anywhere else. As the preseason was going on, Yannick was saying how he wanted to settle down. That I don't know if he has kids or he wants kids, but he wanted to settle down. If you look back at he spent after Jacksonville, okay, which is crazy. After Jacksonville, he played for Jacksonville for 4 years, and he has spent the last 5 years with 5 different teams: Minnesota, Baltimore, Vegas, Indianapolis, Chicago. Where he goes now, you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He will be on his 7th team in 6 years, right? 7 teams in 6 years. It's very similar, in my opinion, to Jadeveon Clowney, where Jadeveon Clowney is the same thing. The Browns, the Seahawks, the Ravens, the same thing. And Jadeveon Clowney got a deal, and I forgot who he's playing. He's playing with another team right now, a new team. So Yannick Ngakoue, man, I mean, it's between him and let's look up Ogba real quick because I want to. Okay, out of the 2 of those guys, I didn't have their spot track and stuff pulled up, but Yannick would definitely be the cheapest. He definitely would be the cheapest. I don't have Ogba stuff pulled up yet. Let's see if we can do this on the fly. We're going to go down and see if we could pull this stuff up on the fly. Okay, Emmanuel, let's see what his stats were looking like for last year. And I think he's going to cost more as well than Yannick. But the thing, like I said, the thing about Yannick is it something underneath? Is it some type of character situation as to why he's been on 7 different teams? This will be team number 7. Like, that's insane. Okay, so let's go back. I'm sorry, y'all. I hate not being prepared, but sometimes this stuff is spontaneous and you just kind of do stuff on the fly. All right, so if we look at Emmanuel, I don't know what happened last year, if he was hurt. Is he older than Yannick? They might be the same age. Second round pick in 2020. Had 5 sacks in how many games? How many games did he play last year? He played. Wow, he spent the last 4 years with he played 15 games. 15 games and had 5 sacks. So, I mean, out of the two of these guys, Yannick probably would be the best fit for what we need. But we passed on him last year. He was a free agent for the longest. Like I said earlier in the video, he was one of those guys that as the season was getting closer and closer, him, Leonard Floyd, those type of guys, man, they were kind of sitting there at the last minute, and then they were brought on by their respective teams. So that list is very scarce. Out of that list, I would probably take Emmanuel and Yannick. I mean, at this point, neither one of those guys were hurt. Neither one. I don't see too many people getting cut as the season gets closer. And if I'm going to be honest with you, if I can have a guy that can come in here and get a full preseason, a full offseason with the team, right? Well, right now it's not a full offseason, but in about a week, the official start of the new season begins. And I would consider anything from the start of OTAs. I would consider that all preseason a full preseason. But both of these guys are veterans. Both came out in 2016, I believe. They both came out in 2016, both seasoned veterans. Wouldn't take either one of these guys longer to kind of fit in and settle in. So at this point, I take Yannick. I think I take Yannick over Agba. Let me see so sack wise, he had 5, 1, 9, 9, 5.5. That's the last 5 years. 5 last year, 1 the year before that. His time in Miami, he's had 9, 9, 1, and 5 in the 4 years he's been in Miami. So what is that? 10. He's had 24 sacks in the time he's been in Miami. So let me know in the comments below, is it any one of these 5 guys? Or out of the 2 guys, Yannick and Agba, which one would you take? Or is it somebody not on this list that you would consider? At this point, man, I mean, seriously, I don't think either one of those guys would hurt. I think I would prefer Yannick, though, at this point. I think he probably have the speed that we need. I think he could be like, I guess, that Bruce Irvin guy. You know what I'm saying? At this point, it's slim pickings right now. So let me know your thoughts. Which one would you prefer, if any one of these guys? This channel is made possible by viewers, subscribers, and members just like you. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions.